Hello, 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 and welcome back to the channel. It has been a while. It has been a while. I'm glad to be back. And I'm not alone. Before I kick off anything, I would like to invite my guest to say a few words. Hello, Nimrod.
Hello, Keelah. How are you?
I'm good. You're a bit crackly there.
Yeah, I can't really help that. I'm dodging
That,
my internet at the moment.
yep. I understand that struggle. I really do. How have you been?
Ups and downs last few weeks. Still alive. I'm home anyway, to say the least. E. coli is a nasty piece of shit.
Yeah, it's scary.
Yep,
That's
very
scary.
scary.
Well, I'm glad you're on the mend. I hope you're on the mend.
Yeah, and I have a whole pharmacy of pills rattling inside of me right now, so
Oh, it's the one thing I'll take all the bloody liquid medicine that they can give, but don't give me pills. I can't. I can't. I'll
oh,
be
I don't mind that. It was the IV fluids they were pumping into me, which was the most annoying.
I don't mind IV. I actually don't mind because right. So when I was pregnant, I was very very sick when I was pregnant. So I actually had to get like 2 or 3 bags of IV. So I don't mind the IV.
Well, I minded it because they were giving me very large bags which had to be put into me over a period of 10 hours, and they usually
Oh
did
hell no.
that. And they usually started that at 10 o'clock at night.
Uh,
So being hooked up to an IV all night long,
that's gross.
yeah, not
That's
fun.
well. I am glad you're on the mend.
Me too.
My, my little one has caught a vomiting bug, so yikes.
Oh, fuck. Oh, well,
Yeah. But it's
unfortunately,
gonna
that happens.
that's what happens when they go into nursery.
Yep.
But yeah, let's say hello to some people because obviously you're in the chat, so you can see who's in the chat. Hello Fred. Tusk is here. Of course Tusk is here. Tusk, I have something that's gonna really grind your gears a little bit. Wait until one of the videos that I'm gonna show. You're gonna really enjoy it. Second best Bob is here. Hello, people. Tatty, of course. Tatty is in the same fucking room as me. Can't get rid of him.
It's like a bad smell.
TJ Archivist, it's good to see it again, mate. It really, really is. Welcome back around. Mr. Andra as well. Hello, Fred Bailey. Have you tried more goats? Have I tried more goats? What exactly do you? Oh, okay, that was okay. Yeah, got some goat chops from the butcher there. Nice, nice. We have to have a conversation where you got them because I need some goat meat. Yay, Mike Hall is here. Hello, people. So I decided, I've been very very quiet recently because obviously being a mom has taken up a lot of energy and a lot of time. Same with Tatty, being a dad and working and everything else has taken up all of our time. So the energy for YouTube hasn't really been there, but we're getting to a good stage, I think, with the little brat. My super chats. Hang on. Tusk is giving out that my super chats are turned off. Give me 1 sec and I'll have a look. I apologize. So when you're away for a while, YouTube decides to demonetize you. Super chats. No, it should be on. Okay. Super chats, super stickers are enabled now. So refresh the stream if you can't see them. They should be enabled. Sorry, people. I'm getting used to YouTube again, so I had to redo. Yes, you are super. When I kind of took time off, after a while, YouTube decided, well, we don't like this time off that you're taking, and then because I moved country, it was still using my old AdSense account. So I had to create a new AdSense account, shut my old one down, and then they just messed it up. Everything was messed up, and it was a pain in the arse. But eventually, we got sorted like 2 days ago, I think.
Yeah, I got an email the other day saying memberships are active again. You're paying Keelah.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, I don't mind that because one, I've never done YouTube in order to make money out of it. If it happens, great. If it doesn't, like that's not why I do content. But the
Hey,
other
it.
but the other thing is, I don't feel as bad because I haven't been making the content that people haven't been paying. So that makes me a little bit happier. And for those of you who are listening who are members, if you want to cancel your membership, that's okay. I completely understand because I haven't been as active and it's been crazy. But I appreciate you. Thank you. And we have
You're welcome.
wow, we have Purple in the chat. Etty
And Eddie.
and Mr. Wonderful. Hello, peoples. It is good to see you. I am going to preface this with there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot to talk about.
Oh, Christ.
And you don't have to do the talking. It's okay. I do want to get the reason why I wanted to do this with you is because obviously as a fellow Dubliner,
Yeah.
I wanted first of all I wanted someone here with me.
Well, no,
because
what I was saying was, oh Christ, what's happened like in the city?
yeah. And the other reason is it's there's so much to talk about that having another opinion from someone who's currently still living in Dublin is always a win. So there is a hell of a lot to talk about. But I am going to preface this with just explaining that there is the reasons why this all came about are very sensitive, and it can be very, very upsetting to a lot of people. So it has to do with children, and I know that can be a trigger for some people. So I just want to let you know there is something very serious to talk about. And oh my god, Tusk for £20. Buy yourself an ice cream at the theater. Thank you. So what that's about, by the way, I'm guessing. Myself and Etty are bringing the kiddo very, very soon to see Bluey in the theater
Oh, brilliant.
because kiddo is getting more and more into Bluey, and I love Bluey, and Etty loves Bluey, so she's coming with me, and I can't wait. Yeep. I'm so rubbish at watching the news. I don't know what's after happening. We're going to get into it, Second Best Bob. Believe me, we're going to get into it, and it's heavy. It is quite heavy. So yeah.
And don't worry, Bob. I don't really watch the news. I actually found out about this from Sweden.
From Sweden.
Yeah. My daughter's grandmother in Sweden texted me and go, "We used to stay in a hotel there, didn't we?" I'm looking at it going, "Holy shit, yeah, you did."
Yeah. It is what it says. There was riots in Dublin, and I genuinely never thought I'd see the day. Where these type of riots would happen.
Oh yeah, now there has been riots before. That's when the Orange Men tried to march down O'Connell Street. That turned into a clusterfuck really quickly. But that was a long time ago.
I heard the riots caused thousands of euros worth of improvements. I'm not sure about that.
10 million euros worth of repairs, more like.
Yeah. Again, there's a lot to talk about. So before I do anything, before I get into the riots, I want to explain I wouldn't say the reasons behind it, but what's being labeled the reasons behind it. And this is very, very sensitive. I'm just going to talk on it really quickly because I think YouTube are going to try and demonetize anyone that talks about this. But on Thursday afternoon around 1:30 p.m, there's a Gael school, Closhta Muir, in Parnell Square. So for those of you who don't know the layout of Dublin, you have the main thoroughfare, which is O'Connell Street. And at the top of O'Connell Street, we have Parnell Square. And on one side, on the eastern side of Parnell Square, there is a school that's being housed in one of the Georgian buildings, beautiful Georgian buildings. And at about 1:30 p.m., the nursery was let out. There was an after-school project that people were heading to, and they were being brought by a teacher. In the midst of this, a man wielded a knife and attempted to stab all of the children. He stabbed their caregiver, their teacher, who's 30 years old, and he managed to stab 3 children. One of whom is still in critical condition in Temple Street Hospital. One of the children was grazed by the knife, thankfully, wasn't too serious. And the other sustained injuries and was later released after about 5 days in hospital. And hello, plot hole. But yeah, what the fuck, going after kids? That was the reasons why they've said they've done what they've done. Now,
I
yeah,
did hear that there might have been a religious aspect behind this, but they've been downplaying it all over the news because they don't want that to become the thing that's what caused this.
Yeah. The man is 49. The alleged attacker was 49, allegedly from Algeria, but has been an Irish citizen for the last 20 years. Now, I have to say alleged, and the reason why I have to say alleged is because, and this is why none of this has been made, a lot of this hasn't been made public, or they've struggled to make it public. There is a thing called evidence that you need, and you need time to gather that evidence. And in order for them to bring a case against this alleged attacker, they need to go through a court of law. The man in question was stopped by a range of people, ranging from Irish to Brazilian to French to Italian. A range of people got involved and stopped this man, allegedly, from attacking any more children. And if you're not a news organization, you don't have to dance around the issues. The problem with it is if it's on social media, not even under EU law, it could prejudice any case that's brought against them. And I don't want to be prejudicing anything. And this is why they've been so sensitive with releasing any information before they know too much. The Brazilian Deliveroo driver hit the man in the face with his helmet in order to stop him.
Nice.
Knocked him out. And because of that, he is in an induced coma. And they're not sure if he's going to be fit to stand trial. Now, I don't think that's the only reason that he has those injuries, because a lot of people jumped in to stop him. Obviously, a lot of people were in shock. But for the people who did jump in, they were desperate to stop this guy. And I'm going to give credit to, I think, the bravest people of that day. There was 2 Dublin women who, after all of this transpired, when the ambulance got to the scene, they were waiting for the police to arrive. They personally blocked the mob who wanted to tear this man apart. They stood in the way, saved the man's life, which, to be honest with you, I don't think I would have had the strength to do, being a mum myself. But they stood in the way. They stopped anyone from hurting the man any further until the police arrived, because their opinion was this man needs to face judgment in the correct way. And to me, those two women are two of the biggest heroes of that day.
Yeah, there was no need to kill the man for what he did. He has to face justice. That's just the law. There was no need to fucking lynch him.
Hello, Clive. Well, they would have torn him apart. They were going to tear him apart. But I think that's not justice. That's revenge.
Yeah.
And it's very easy when something like this happens and you're in shock and you're so devastated by it that revenge becomes the primary motive of anyone. But that's not justice. And I genuinely hope the perpetrator of that horrendous crime to target children in that manner, to try and take their life. And these were 5 and 6-year-olds.
Absolutely disgusting.
They were babies.
I don't know if, as you said, I don't know if I'd have had the strength to stop them up doing stuff to that guy.
It takes an awful lot of strength to say, no, justice has to be done, not vengeance. Because vengeance is always the easier answer. Now, out of that, a crowd came up about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. There's 2 versions of the story. I'm going to go through both. It does break my heart, Etty. It really, really breaks my heart. The first story is it's the official story. Now, protesters came angry at what happened and tried to break through the police cordon to get to the crime scene. And I'm going to go through in a while why I think that one is the correct story. But they wanted to taint an active crime scene, which was never going to happen. It was never going to happen. And because of that, there was a call that went out, encouraging people to come in and have a bigger protest. And I will get to that in a little while. The second story is that a different man who was a migrant, who was on a bike, was trying to get across Parnell Square at the bottom of the cordon. And there were people standing in his way. And one of the people standing in his way was a 12-year-old child, and he started ramming the 12-year-old child with a bike instead of just going around the crowd, who was growing more hostile by the second. And when you're surrounded by a group of people who are shouting, "Get them out, get them out, get them out," meaning migrants, to be a migrant man attacking a child with a bike doesn't seem to me to be a clever thing to do. Now, I'm not saying that there are some migrants that wouldn't do it. I've seen it happen. I've seen Irish people do it. Just being stubborn arseholes. But let's be honest. Hi, Reason.
Are you going to do that? Are you going to do that in a crowd?
Are you, especially with the circumstances? Like, Dublin was on high alert. Was on high alert because of what had happened. It was all over the news. It was talked about non-stop. So, and you see people standing at the end of Parnell Street with Irish flags and shouting at them. Are you really going to attack a child with a bike?
No.
Now, the person who made that claim was someone on Twitter, and I saw the video that she'd made. I couldn't find it again, unfortunately. I would have loved to screen grab it. He could have been panicking to get out, but it doesn't make sense to me that he went through the crowd at all instead of going around. Because at this stage, according to this woman who was there was only about 60 people. 60 people for Parnell Street and O'Connell Street is not a lot of people. However,
that's practically empty.
Yeah, and there was plenty of ways of getting around it. So for me, yes, he probably it could have sparked very, very quickly. He was surrounded. He probably did. It just doesn't make sense. It makes more sense that these people tried to breach the cordon and get closer to the crime scene. And I'm going to explain why over the course of this live stream. I have a few videos to play. The first is from a guy called Ben Gilroy. Do you know of Ben Gilroy?
Can't say I know the name offhand.
So Ben Gilroy, about 10 years ago, but no, 8 years ago, I'd say now. Yeah. Anyway, he started up a movement trying to resist the evictions that were going on. But very quickly engaged with the Freeman ideology. And the Freeman ideology, as a lot of the Americans will know, what do they call it, Daddy? Fucking sovsits.
Sovshits.
Yeah. So it kind of mingled with that, and he was giving out more than questionable legal advice. But this is the one that I really want Tusk to listen to, because it does go on for about a minute and a half. But it's a very important one. And I'm going to prove him wrong on every single thing he says. But I do want to show this because it shows what they've been trying to do since it happened. They've been trying to brand it as people are more upset about a riot than kids being stabbed. We only came out because kids were stabbed. But the call went out after trying to breach brace myself. Sovereign citizens. The call went out after 5 o'clock that they were going to have a meeting at the Spire at 7 p.m. So the Spire is in the centre of O'Connell Street. They were going to have a meeting or a demonstration or something. And I'm going to get to what was actually sent out by some of these individuals and what actually happened. So this is Ben Gilroy trying to preach about what happened and who was responsible for the riot. So Tusk, enjoy. I know you're going to get a kick out of this.
Let's get some facts straight. Thousands of people, both Irish and foreign nationals, came out on the O'Connell Street, Dublin here, to express their mutual outrage, anger and contempt for the state's failure in their duty to protect the children of Ireland. Most of the people that showed up acted within the law. However, a few hundred of whom I believe are anarchists from the radical left seized upon this tragic situation and chose to attack the Gardaí when they were vulnerable, outnumbered and trying to protect the integrity of a crime scene. I stand with the people that came out lawfully to express their anger, and I also wholeheartedly condemn the arsonists, vandals, thugs and looters who took advantage of us at our lowest ebb when we were in shock and heartbroken by this savage attack. I believe the attacker is an Algerian man in his 50s, whom I'm told has been living in Ireland since the year 2000, permitted by the Fianna Fáil, Bertie Ahern government. Now all of this clearly calls into question the present day reckless open borders policy of Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael and the Green government. Furthermore, this reckless open border policy is openly and fully supported by the so-called parties of opposition, being Mary Lou's Sinn Féin, Labour and People Before Profit. There was not a shred of evidence that the disturbing scenes in Dublin of last night were politically motivated, nor was there any evidence of the so-called far-right involvement.
Yeah. I knew you'd love that one too, Nimrod, but I love that Tusk was in the chat for that one. So what he's saying there was that in fact the rioters were all anarchists shouting, "Get them out, get them out, get them out." And yeah. What's your take on that one?
That's all. He's a spin doctor. He's spinning the news. He's spinning what actually happened. Because that's not what happened. I don't believe that for a second. It was this, that, and the other anarchists and looters who took advantage of us. No, it fucking wasn't.
Well, okay. What I will say is that he is correct in one aspect and only one aspect. The rioters and the looters did take a national tragedy, and a city in mourning. They twisted and bastardized what had happened for their own gain. I will agree with him on that, but I don't agree that it's anarchists because, well, for the obvious reasons. Now, right. So the first thing is to get over, and this is going to make a lot of people angry. The first thing to get over is the idea that there is absolutely no evidence whatsoever that the right wing were involved. Have a listen to a message from somebody who was organizing the 7 p.m. what turned into riots, and what he told people to do when they came in.
They can't control us all. And let's have little groups splintering off, doing what we gotta do. 7 o'clock, be in town. Everyone belly up, towel up, and any fucking jippo, foreigner, anyone, just kill them. Just fucking kill them. Let's get this on the fucking news.
Oh no, that one I heard on the news.
Yeah. Any foreigner, just kill them. Now, I've been around a lot of different groups over the last 15 years. From centrists to left wing to far left to anarchists. And I have never, ever once in my life heard an anarchist talking in such general terms that if any migrant tries to stop you from smashing the city up, just kill them.
It's atrocious.
In fact, I was there in 2016 in O'Connell Street when a group called Padiga tried to set up a branch in Dublin, and Antifa, the one of the main anarchist groups, were there and chased them off the streets. But not once did they say, kill all Padiga.
Fucking hell, what's going on in this city?
I also, I'm going to play it again. Have a look at his name. This is the name of the person who's actually sending the voice note. Just have a look at his name.
They can't control us all. And let's have little groups splintering off, doing what we gotta do. 7 o'clock, be in town. Everyone belly up, towel up, and any fucking jippo, foreigner, anyone, just kill them. Just fucking kill them. Let's get this on the fucking news.
Yeah, that was all. The names were all blurred on the news, of course.
Yeah, well, the name of that person was Kill All Immigrants. In case you missed it.
Didn't miss it. It's hard to miss.
It's very, very hard to miss.
I'm sorry, but it hasn't typically since the potato famine most of the Irish population being immigrants, and they're therefore, in fact, immigrants to other countries?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, January 6th stuff. It's very reminiscent of the January 6th stuff. But
yeah, except ours wasn't started by our president.
Exactly. No anarchists would ever use Jippo in that context. No, they wouldn't. They probably wouldn't even use the term Jippo. Especially in a derogatory term anyway. Yes. Well, maybe not a rhyme, but a crime, yeah. That for me is incitement to violence. Especially because his name is Kill All Immigrants. And what he is saying is tool up. He says the words, tool up. And if anyone intervenes, just kill them.
Sure. what was that I seen on the news one of the days? Because of those riots, Ireland actually managed to force the EU into creating or to enacting one of the most stringent laws for internet policing.
Yeah. I don't think they took it as seriously as they should have done up to now, because we've seen Telegraph being used in other countries. Telegraph was on fire between 5 and 7 o'clock. The same with Twitter. Twitter was, or X. Sorry, Clive. Inciting a rhyme should be a criminal offense. No, it shouldn't.
I predict a riot.
But yeah, the second thing I want to do is show people that the idea that the majority of people at that demonstration or at that protest that turned into a riot were peaceful. Now, again, noting that they had tried earlier to get past the police cordon onto the crime scene. This actually starts facing up Parnell Square, up towards the crime scene. And where the rioters is at the top of O'Connell Street on Parnell Street, just beside the building in the background of the first clip is the Ambassador Theatre. So that if anyone does know of their layout of Dublin, again, it's important for people to see this. This is nearly 3 minutes long, and I apologize, but I'm gonna play it all.
Wait, isn't that the rotunda?
The rotunda is the other side. It's on the west side of Parnell Square. So this is the east side of Parnell Square.
Okay, all right. So yeah,
So
okay, I was thinking, I got my backs and fronts mixed up.
that's okay. Be prepared for some of the scenes here. So again, he said that they were peaceful. They were only there not to cause trouble, and they were law-abiding. Yeah, enjoy watching the law-abiding citizens here.
Get
Yeah. So sorry, I've missed some dogs. Why is this happening? Because of the child attack. That's the reason why they're saying that. That's the excuse they're using. That's not why it happened. That's not why it happened.
That's
And I'm gonna,
no excuse for doing what they were doing.
yeah, I'm going to get into why it actually happened in a few minutes, but it's important for people to see what actually did happen. But the idea that they're all law-abiding citizens.
They're all judges and lawyers, sure.
Oh yeah, we're needing legal aid. They're all judges and lawyers and.
Fucking, it's disgraceful. Half of them are brainwashed, like.
Yeah, it sounds like some far-right radicals use the attack as an excuse for some sort. Yes, that's it in a nutshell. And again, I'm going to go through what's been happening in the country for the last 2 years, I'd say, year and a half.
I would just like to say one thing. Why was the Garda response so slow? When we've had riots on O'Connell Street before, and they know what can happen when riots happen on O'Connell Street because it's got so many alleyways, you can't really stop people from moving around cordons.
So it
doesn't make sense. Why haven't they trained for this more?
There's a number of reasons. Over the last couple of years, there's been a lot of retirements in the police force over the last 10 years, I'd say. And those replacements have not been, replaced. That's one.
Yeah, it takes time to train Gardaí. I understand that part, but I'm just saying, why hasn't there been more training done for riot control, especially around O'Connell Street?
Well, the interesting thing about the riot police is that there is no, and this is going to sound bizarre to a lot of people. There is no space in any of the police stations for riot gear. So riot police have to go home, keep their gear at home. So they had to go home, get their gear, and get back into the city. Yeah. So the people who were already at home when this started, they were obviously the first people, the first folks back into town when this all started with their gear. So then they needed time so they had to go home. The cops that were on duty had to go home, get their gear, get back into the city centre, gear up again. And by that stage, a lot of damage had already been done. There's another reason as well. Over the last 2 years in Ireland, there has been conversations, like in most countries, about freedom of speech. And it was felt that if they went too heavy-handed on protesters, particularly those of the right, that they would end up hindering their own campaign, or helping the far right to grow and justifying their cause. So there's been, it's a very fucking impractical setup. It's actually laughable.
Yeah.
So there has been training, hasn't been enough training because I genuinely think they underestimated the growth of the far right in Ireland. And again, as well, the policy has been at these protests to take a step back or to not be heavy-handed with protesters, just in case something like this sparked, and in case they were able to use it as saying, police state, police state, police state. And personally speaking, I don't want a police state. But yeah, that little bit at the end when the violence really sparked, your man with the camera backing up into the riot police as if he'd just be able to slip past them. That wasn't going to happen. So he was pushed back. He didn't get a baton to the head. And I've had a baton to the back of the head. I know what that feels like. He didn't get a baton. He was pushed forward, back into line. And so they decided to start kicking, and he threw actually threw a dumpster at them. I like when you have to throw a dumpster at some cops, you know you've lost.
Yeah, pretty much. When you have to start smashing windows in shop fronts, you've lost too.
Yeah. So I mean, now the second image was the image of, I don't know what, have I got this? Was the image of the police car on fire. Actually, give me 1 sec. It's very scary to think that in Ireland. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of the police. As I've said, I've felt their batons to the back of the head. I know, I understand how it can be like really difficult to trust the police.
Avoid them at all costs. That's my idea.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, come have a go if you think you're hard enough, says the police. And then look at the second fucking clip when they're actually pinning them down. Now, again, I want to actually show this. It's about a minute long. It's not as quite a minute long, but it's about a minute long, and it shows more destruction basically and some reaction to it and stuff. So it also shows how dangerous they were, because what they would do was they actually managed to separate 1 or 2 or maybe 4 or 5 police out, and that's what I think is scarier, is the fact that they were able to break police lines like that.
Oh yeah, that's the worst thing you can do when you're trying to be a cordon. Get separated.
So let's have a look at this one. Yeah.
Yeah,
the Arnott's thing is interesting. The Arnott's thing is interesting, just before you jump in there. In a lot of these companies, the workers were still inside. Arnott's had a steel plate behind their shutter. They've been told to close the shutter when everything's kicked off, and they did. But what had happened was they actually pulled the shutter up, and it's bent upwards.
Yeah, there were several shops like that.
And what really got to me was there were people. Now I'm not going to share some of those videos, but there was people inside. Like there was the security guard that was inside Arnott's, having told everybody to either get down to the basement or get up to the roof. And so you had a full group of people in Arnott's who had been working there pretty much all day, who were about to leave their shift. There was people cowering behind there were staff cowering behind the coffee dock in the coffee shop, praying that they weren't spotted by these people. There was a bike shop that had opened up, and about 7,000 worth of inventory stolen out of that shop. That shop is likely not to reopen.
God, no.
Yeah, I know the shutters are not designed to stop a mob. But it's just...
Yeah, but those shutters are really quite strong. That takes a lot of people to bend them the way they bent them.
Yeah.
I mean, it takes a lot of people, or a lot of strength.
It does. It does. It takes a lot of strength. And there was enough people there to do it. Now, all in all, what did the rioters get out of it? They burnt 3 buses. The cop cars, I'm not too concerned about. I'm going to be honest.
They burnt the tram as well.
They burnt the Lewis. And all of this culminates in the idea that we are patriots. We are fighting for our city. Lads, you are fighting with your city. That's all that did.
Let's just think back to our War of Independence. When we took over, when the Irish forces, the IRA, took over the GPO at the time, did they burn the GPO, or did they damage the GPO?
They didn't. They even allowed the staff of the GPO to leave.
Did they start burning the trams that were running on O'Connell Street at the time? Don't remember that in our War of Independence. I really don't remember that in our rebellion.
Because
by the Freedom Fighters.
And one of the things that I've actually genuinely heard is, well, the Easter Rising wasn't popular in Dublin when it happened. Fuck off. No, it wasn't. That's for other reasons.
It was because the British started bombing the fucking city.
No. What it was that the Rising wasn't popular in Dublin because the trade union leaders sold us out. Like, they sold them out. There was supposed to be rail workers and everything from all parts of the country coming up. There was supposed to be a walkout in multiple sectors, and it just didn't fucking happen. So that's why they weren't like.
It was unpopular because it was shaking up the status quo at the time, which was kind of good.
That too, and people were afraid. Whenever they've seen the world change, it was always for the worst. So, they kind of kept their heads down after years of bloodshed. They kind of said, you know what? No, we're not doing this. We're going to keep our heads down. But regardless of that, right? When you come out on the streets and you say, I'm for the freedom of my country and I'm protecting the people, I can tell you the only people that Dubliners right now are afraid of, and it's not just Dubliners, it goes beyond Dublin as well. I was on a Cork radio station there recently, and they were saying, we're supposed to go up to Dublin very soon for this, and we're not going. We're just not going. The only people that people are afraid of were the rioters.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I know, totally.
Let's face it, the man in question who had wielded the knife earlier that Thursday, he was in custody. There was nothing more that anyone could do. There was nothing more anyone could say about that attack because what we knew had already been spoken of, and what we didn't know still had to be investigated. And nobody wanted to prejudice the case or any case that could be brought against that person. So, it's a little bit of a challenge to say we are Dubliners fighting for Dublin. And then when you look at the people who were arrested, there was 34 arrests, I think, on the night. They're from all over the place. They're from all over the place. A good few of them weren't Dubliners. I can tell you that. No,
God, no. They came up on the bus.
Don't know what happened there. Oh, that was you. Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
My brain.
It just dropped out. Just everything turned off.
That's okay. That's okay. Bandwidth issues. I understand. So right. So we've gone through some of the footage of what happened. The timeline that I know of was 4:00-ish. There was a small demonstration at Parnell Square, just for anyone who's late coming in. After the stabbings of several children and their caregiver. That man was taken into custody. The protesters at 4 or 5 o'clock tried to get past the police cordon to get up to the crime scene. They were stopped from doing that. Yeah, no problem. Purple, have to work. Work comes first. And then 7 o'clock, there was a call made for people to come back into the city for a conversation to be held with everybody from the Ireland is Full crowd. And I'm going to get to them, and these are the important people that we have to talk about. And out of that, again, they tried to go up to Parnell Square because that's where the crime scene was. They wanted their fucking 15 minutes of fame. And they met with the riot police where those scenes that you saw took place. And for about 3 hours, they lit Dublin. They set it on fire. They set public transport on fire, both buses and Lewis's. They set Garda cars, normal cars on fire. They razed buildings. They smashed buildings. They looted shops.
And you also have to think about, because of those vehicles that were on fire, the heat created by that, the amount of asphalt and concrete to repair the roads is just immense.
Yeah. The council workers had to come in from 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. And not forgetting the electricity cables for the Lewis to be replaced.
Yeah.
Because they would have melted and dropped to the floor.
Yeah, it was absolutely sickening to see.
It's just and loss of earnings for shops that were open.
And
that
this
could have been doing business.
This happened on Black Thursday. This happened the day before Black Friday, which was Dublin's biggest shopping day, aside from Christmas Eve, I think. But it's the biggest day of shopping, of retail shopping.
Yeah.
In the calendar year. And those shops who are struggling, Middle Abbey Street, there's a centre, I think there's a small shop, Middle Abbey Street, and they were accosted. They were absolutely ransacked.
Oh yeah, I think I know that shop.
Yeah, thousands of euro worth in damage.
Oh yeah, I mean,
some of these shops will not open again.
No.
You saw in the first video, I think it was the Dublin City dorms. This is for fucking students. This is student accommodation. You know?
Yeah. But all students are foreigners.
Exactly. Well, no, it's not even that. All students are foreigners who want to sit on their arses on the dole and steal our houses and wreck our economy and Tatty just said the concept of learning is foreign to these countries. Couldn't agree more. Could not agree more.
Yep.
So that's the tinderbox that just set on fire on last Thursday. Now
I was in hospital, so I was watching it on the television that's in my room, and I'm just looking at it going, what the fuck do these people think they're up to? I mean, do they realise what they're doing to themselves? To themselves. This is going to ruin things for them. And of course, they're all, and half of them are in balaclavas and half of them aren't, and you know they're going to get arrested eventually.
Oh yeah. There's going to be footage somewhere of these fuckers, and they are going to get caught. They brought down the water cannons.
We got two from Belfast, yeah.
And also they have, as far as I'm aware, they have Northern Irish police and UK police helping them trawl through the footage, the CCTV.
Not surprised.
So yeah, it's going to get very interesting very fast. And to be honest,
the people behind this they are eventually going to be caught because of this that law that I was saying earlier, the EU law that internet policing, they are going to get caught now. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. They will be caught.
They will. And they'll face the courts. And my concern is the people that did face the courts the next day, all faced like misdemeanors, like very, very small.
Yes, but the people who did a lot worse, they're building cases against them, and they're probably not going to arrest them until they have a good enough case to keep them on that bigger charge of more than just a misdemeanor.
Yeah. I'm just getting something. I'm sending something there. But yeah. The misdemeanors really kind of, I get why they did it, but it really frustrates me. The fact that they've been permitted to destroy the bloody town and just get a slap in the wrist. And I'm concerned that it's going to end there, that public interest in it is going to wane to the extent where they're going to get off.
And it's going to happen again. Well,
it's definitely going to happen again.
Let's hope the Gardaí have learned their lesson and can put into place something a whole lot better for plans of how to get riot police into where it's needed quickly without police having to fucking go home first.
I think there has to be somewhere central. Now, again, I'm not a big fan of the police. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not.
No, neither am I.
Yeah,
I'm not exactly their biggest fan myself.
Right.
But you have to weigh the situations.
Yeah.
The riot police needed to be there very quickly, and they weren't.
The big question is, why has all of this started? What has happened that Ireland, of all places, are having right-wing riots? And
there's a few theories of that, but I won't say it online.
Well, I'm going to go into it. You don't have to stick around for it. You don't have to say anything if you don't want to, but I'm going to go into it.
I'll go right ahead.
So, over the last 18 months, between the war in Ukraine and between other things, there has been a dramatic increase in the levels of refugees coming into the country.
Yes, that's true.
We are upholding and only upholding our international obligation. We are not going beyond that. We're not going overboard with that. We are maintaining our international agreements. Some of these refugees have been housed in hotels, especially during the winter last year. It just made sense to put them in the hotels that were empty because of, the lull in tourism.
Yep.
Some were put in community centres. Some were put in old army barracks and stuff like that. At the same time, you have had a governmental policy of bringing in vulture funds into the country to buy up the housing stock instead of seizing that housing stock, particularly the public housing stock in Nama. So when the crash happened, NAMA was set up to take over the bad debt. So it's a governmental agency. And through NAMA, they have been selling the stock for a lower price than it's valued. And then this is where the sociologist part comes out. Sorry, I have to give my spiel. I am not happy with the government. They have been selling off the NAMA stock to the wrong people. There has been an increase in price gouging in terms of rental increases. There is a mortgage crisis. There is a homeless crisis. And this has been fueled by 12 years of a Fine Gael government, Fine-Gael-led government. So for anyone who doesn't know who Fine Gael is, they are essentially the Tories of Ireland. And the UK people will know, they are ultra-conservative, they are ultra-capitalistic, they originated in the 1930s out of the large farmers, big business, and the fascist boot boys.
Yeah, the
Which
blue
is-
shirts.
Yeah, the blue shirts, which is incredible because now they're actually facing who they used to be on the streets of Dublin. So, you know, the roosters come home to roost and whatever, and the chickens come home to roost. So you have a situation of 12 years of a Fine Gael government who have actively defunded the police. They closed down for a while the Garda College. They have actively picked apart our health service and worsened it like tenfold. They have been increasing class sizes, making it more difficult for teachers. So teachers have been emigrating, nurses have been emigrating. And basically they've been doing a pretty shit job for the last 11 years, 12 years.
And then they go and ask why all the nurses are emigrating from this country after getting their qualifications.
Yeah. So the only reason Fine Gael was saved in the last election was the fear from Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael that Sinn Féin would take over. Now, before I get into anything, I am not a Sinn Féin supporter. Me and Sinn Féin have some back history that I'm not going to get into, and I can't fucking stand them. Especially their current president, Mary Lou. There was an ongoing thing with her that I have. Not going to get into it, but I do not like Sinn Féin.
I will say
Yep.
one thing about Sinn Féin. Sinn Féin are wonderful at being an opposition party.
Yeah.
They will
are
never,
opportunists.
ever work as being the lead party in a government, ever.
Well, I don't agree with that. And here's why. Sinn Féin have never been in government. Now, you can talk about the North. The North is different. I don't like how they speak out of both sides of their mouths. And personally speaking, half of me would like to see them get in power just to see how much they'd fuck up. And then they wouldn't be able to use left-wing rhetoric the way they do, that they can actually, they'll be seen for the fucking centrist party that they are.
Exactly.
So when Sinn Féin were actively, because of the housing shortage, because of the rental crisis, because of the mortgage crisis, because of the homeless crisis, the health service, everything, because of everything, Sinn Féin were getting more votes last round than either Fine Gael or Fianna Fáil. And both parties, who traditionally hated each other, who came out of the opposite sides of the treaty war, in the evolution of the state, the opposing sides who said they would never work together, they jumped into bed with each other so fucking fast.
Oh yeah, you've seen that.
And that's the only reason why Fine Gael is still in power, is because they agreed with Micheál Martin, who is the leader of Fianna Fáil, who's another right-wing centrist government, that they could split the Taoiseach and Taoiseach roles between themselves. That 2 years of Varadkar, 2 years of Micheál Martin, 2 years of Varadkar, or whatever the fuck it was. And the other element of this was the Green Party. Now, back in 2011, I was very close to Green Party members. And I remember when Gormley, who was the then leader of the Green Party, yeah, it's going to get a little bit political now. When Gormley invited a man to come in with his special needs child to discuss him not being able to get a place for her in a school anywhere in Dublin. This man was from the travelling community. He was a settled traveller. And in a heartbeat, Gormley turned around and got security and the police to drag that man and his daughter out of that conference in the most humiliating way possible.
Jesus.
It was at that point that I lost all and any respect for any Green Party member.
I've lost respect for the Green Party because obviously Green Party's also over in Sweden. Yeah. Any time any political party gets elected to be the main party, the Green Party jump into bed with them.
Yeah.
And bring in the most fucked up laws that don't work outside of a city. And if you live in the countryside, you're bent over backwards and buggered.
Yep.
But if you live in the city, it's fine, because if you're living in the city, you can get public transport and all this, that, and the others. But if you're living out in the country, it doesn't matter to them. Country doesn't exist.
Exactly. So there's a reason why I'm discussing all of this. It's important to understand. So the evolution of politics in Ireland traditionally has been kind of more left-wing rhetoric, except for Fine Gael, who have been openly right-wing, and sometimes Fianna Fáil, who have been more than openly right-wing. But so you have this conflicting thing where these two parties jumped into bed with each other alongside the Green Party to keep Sinn Féin out of government. So they continued and continued and continued the right-wing policies of the last 15, 20 years.
Yep. Won't work in the next election, though.
It's going to be interesting. So this has been an ongoing issue. They have not fixed anything. In fact, they have made things worse with every policy decision that they have brought in. So the reason why it's important to understand this is because there is a lot of frustration, and rightly aimed at the government for what they have done. I was there. I was in Apollo House when we took over Apollo House and housed the homeless a few Christmases ago. And I remember them saying that the beds would be there for the homeless people who needed them. We will do anything it takes. Apollo House is now being used to house migrants after kicking out the homeless. And so there's anger over that injustice towards the domestic homeless, but it's being transferred. Instead of being transferred to the government, it is being transferred to the migrants.
Now, why couldn't they just house both in the same place?
Here's my issue. There is still over 250,000 empty houses in Ireland.
Oh yeah, that too.
Hello, Meep. Meep is a friend of mine from... Hello, Meep. Meep takes part in a thing called the Rumba of Thought that I've been getting involved in. And so it's good to see Meep here. So yeah, it's important to understand that the transfer of anger between the righteous anger of homelessness, increased rents, decrease of mortgages, mortgage crisis, mortgage arrears, people getting thrown into hotels. Whole families are now 5, 6, 7 years in hotels. They are not building public housing, and the housing that they are building, only 10% of that is going to public housing. So that's the backdrop of this. But instead of keeping righteous anger at the government, they are transferring it to the migrants. They are blaming the migrants and saying that there's a crisis of migration that, and this is in the last 18 months has really appeared. Now, I don't know if you've ever worked with refugees.
Not as such, but yes, I have kind of. When I was driving buses in Sweden, I would go out to a motel and pick them up and bring them into town because there was no bus there for them. So I'd go out and they were really nice people. Like, I had never any problems.
A lot of migrants, when they come over seeking refugee status, there's two things that happen. If they come by boat into the EU, their passports are seized by the EU. And background checks and stuff like that is done internally in the EU, between the EU and the UN. I used to do a lot of work with the UN. I've worked in refugee camps. I've seen how it happens.
And I have a fair knowledge of my immigrant passports and the codes that are used on them.
Yeah.
So you know them quite quickly,
Yeah.
and the colours and that.
So there's three instances. First of all, if you do get into the EU with your passport, it is seized at the refugee camps mostly, and you probably will get it back. And when they transfer you to whatever country you choose to seek asylum. I've also met refugees, especially in Calais, when the Calais camp was ongoing, when that started up, of the smugglers that when they were being brought in by boat into Greece before they would go anywhere else, they had their passports and documentation seized by the smugglers.
Yeah. Oh, we've all heard those stories.
Yeah. And the third thing, what was happening was when they would board a plane to the places that they were going to seek refuge, they would destroy their documentation on the plane.
That's
I've
also
met
a well-known trick.
There's one simple reason for this. Not to hide anything, not to prevent background checks being done or whatever. The one reason that I have been given by the majority of migrants that I've come across, or refugees in particular, the one reason has been, if I don't have documents, they can't send me back.
Oh.
They are so fucking terrified of being sent back to their country of origin that they would destroy their own documents and become, in some ways, a stateless person. And they would rather face a lifetime in a Western jail than death back home. Because as soon as you leave most of the countries that they're coming from, you are seen as a blood traitor, and they will kill you if you go home.
Well, I mean, it's a well-known trick, and it was something we were always told about. Is to, in the rubbish bins in airports, like they'll board the plane, they'll go to the gate, they'll board through the gate with their documents, proper documents. As soon as they get out, just goes in the bin.
Yeah. And again, the reason that they discard their documents is not. I don't think it's even in most.
It's not malicious.
No, I don't think it's in most of the minds that they're actually destroying any avenues of doing background checks. I think it's genuine fear for most of them. I can't speak for all of them now. So there has been a huge influx of migrants into the country, into visible places that are visible. Whereas before they'd stick them down in Mosney or they'd put them in a direct provision centre. And the other issue with it is the fact that the government over decades have not invested in the direct provision and in asylum claims. So you don't have the resources, like in the States, you don't have the resources to actually go through all of the documentation, the claim to seek asylum, etc., in a timely manner. So people are waiting 7, 8, 10, 15 years to be told whether or not they're going to be deported or whether they're going to be allowed to exist in the country.
And by that time in the United States, it's enough time to hide.
Exactly. Well, hello, Math Pig. Hello. So yeah, because they're now being taken out of direct provision centres, which I've never been a fan of. Similar story to here in the UK. Exactly, Fred. Now they're being moved into hotels and into populated areas where they're more visible, and they're easier to get at. And so the anger has increased tenfold because of the ongoing issues surrounding the housing crisis and the health crisis with the migrant crisis that's been going on all over the world for the last 10 years.
And an awful lot of this stuff as well is that people they hear rumors that are just not true. and they believe it because
Yeah.
they don't have the actual truth being brought out anywhere to say, well, this is what we're actually doing, because they don't talk about it.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is that well, it's not. I'm going to be honest. I don't think it's in the remit of a government agency to explain the complexities of their job, in terms of refugees,
No.
to the general public. It's not their responsibility.
I wasn't saying it was. I was just saying.
Well, a lot of it is sensitive information, so it's not actually it's not for public consumption because it's so complicated.
It's easy to think. It's easy to tell. We can't tell you that to the company. You
Yeah.
don't understand it.
You don't understand it. I know.
Yeah, you can have all the
But-
all the documents, but 99% of what's on the page is going to be redacted. So you
Exactly.
might get the letter A somewhere,
Yeah, and
or the word the.
But what's remarkable, so over the course of the last 18 months, particularly in Ireland, you have seen a huge swelling of anger, of outpouring of that anger, conflating the two issues of homelessness and migration. They've tried to block off the roundabout at the airport, which is fucking hysterical, to stop
Brilliant.
them coming in, because that's going to stop them coming in.
Yep. Of
They've
course it
gone
will.
to hotels screaming, "Get them out! Ireland is full." All of
Is
this, it's not. It's really
No.
not. Have you seen the? You know where you live. I know where you live. There's plenty of green space around there.
Loads of space. Put them in tents.
No, Tatty, not get their boobs out. No, not cocks either. But yeah, so
Hey, the Phoenix Park is really big. You can get loads of tents in there.
but you'd be messing with the wildlife. And what about me walk? As if any of them walk. They all have those fucking scooters.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, so there's a conflation between the anger at the government policies driving the housing issues. Again, you have families in hotels being just thrown anywhere and everywhere. I myself, when I was pregnant on the kiddo, I was given a year's extension on my lease, and a few days later, I was told, "We need you out by the end of the month, because we have family who needs it." So I was made homeless at 5 months pregnant. No, I didn't fucking leave, because you know what I'm like. The way in which they tried to evict me was unlawful, and I had several high-profile people writing letters to. Tatty can tell you, like, what was that numpty like? But it had gotten to the stage where, on 2 occasions, he had screamed at me out on the street,
Jesus.
calling me a liar, calling me this, calling me that, because I was doing interviews. Because I just happened to have someone in the Irish Times and the Independent. Having been an activist for 15 years, I kind of knew some cunts, you know? And so
yes, you obviously weren't pregnant, you were just really fat. Or you had a really massive fart which you couldn't get out.
But it's the fact that I was pregnant is why they wanted me out.
Fucking
Because
nonsense.
they didn't want a baby in their because their house is attached onto my apartment. So they didn't want a baby. They didn't want to listen to a baby. The fact that they had 2 big fucking dogs that were ridiculously loud, and the fact that walking across the floor, because mine was under bedrooms, it was like fucking elephants jumping across, wasn't it, Tatty?
Jesus.
Our visit in that house would make it a legal occupation. That's why we didn't want you there,
Yeah.
baby.
So there was a lot of issues, and I was made homeless. Not once, coincidentally enough, not once did I blame a migrant on my problems.
What? Why not?
I know, right?
Why not?
It's like, it's not
Should've
even
blamed
that
them all.
difficult to do.
If I was a migrant, you would have been blaming the migrants and not your problems.
You are the reason for all of my problems, you shit.
Hey, the wee one was a migrant.
Well, right. So here's the thing. So that these groups started to pop up all over the place. The groups Say No, and it came from the water charges into something else, and evolved into something else. And eventually, they're just bitter people.
I remember the water charge debacle. Fucking hell.
But out of it, you had communities say no, and they then became internalized, bitter conspiracy nuts against the fucking closures of COVID, and thinking that the vaccine was this and that and the other. And there was a lot happening that evolved from what the water charges were into the conspiratorial groups that were
real
now
Mark Sargent, the Pissy Dave sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I drink my urine to make me feel better.
So you had this evolution, and they decided then to go to the hotels themselves, screaming Ireland is full, screaming get them out, screaming anti-migrant slogans, Ireland is for the Irish. And a lot of people were like, what the fuck is happening? We are a country of migrants. We are a country of people who left this country for generations.
And still are.
One of the reasons, obviously, was the housing issue for me. But another reason, and I only told Tatty there recently, the other day, actually, because I knew. Aaron Armstrong says, stop sniffling, blow your nose.
I can't help it. I just have a runny nose from being in a sauna for the last 2 weeks.
Yeah. It's not going to happen. It's not going to help. I apologize, but it's what happens. Right, but I was on a Lewis, and I was talking to a woman about the Ireland is full crowd. And basically all I said, very simply, was that if you have issues with government policies, go to the government. Stop attacking hotels. Stop attacking places where migrants live. And go to the fucking government. That's all I said.
But that's what gets things done, and we don't want anything to get done about it. We just want to be angry and smash things up.
Well, wait right there, because this man was overhearing the conversation. Big, stocky man. I have my son, who's 6 months, in his pram. He's asleep. And I'm having this conversation. And this guy gets up and comes over to me. So you're an N-word lover now, are you? You're a blood traitor, are you? Ireland's fucking full. It's about time. And you're part of the fucking problem.
Bollocks.
And then he raised his fist. And at that point, I'm thinking, this guy is going to hit me. And all I could think was, if he hits me, I'm going down. That's like, I'm a lightweight. What will happen to my son? Who will look after my son? And that was a very, very frightening moment for me. Something that I'd never worried before. Obviously, I'd never been a mum before. So I was always of the opinion that nobody is going to kick me out of my own home. Dublin was my home. If they didn't like it, they didn't have to. Do you know, well, I wasn't leaving. This is my home. Nobody's going to force me out. Having a child, and having a child so vulnerable and being right there when being confronted by violence scared the fucking shite out of me so bad. I know! I moved to Glasgow, of all fucking places. I was happy to see the back of Dublin. And I never ever thought I'd be happy to see the back of Ireland.
I can tell you one thing. As soon as I don't have anything keeping me in this country, I'll be gone from here. That's simple. Oh, and by the way, I'd just like to say I have a friend in the chat called Xerxes. Hello, ZX. How are you? Thank you for coming along.
Hello. Sorry, I'm just nearly choked on water. Give me 1 sec.
That's not the way to do things. You're supposed to drink it, not inhale it.
Yeah, but Tatty said something and I was like, it's all Tatty's fault. Yeah, for any members that are in the chat, send Tatty your love with a Tatty whore.
I don't know if I want that last word to be whore or horse.
Oh no, it's whore. It's whore.
Oh, a tatty whore horse.
So send them some Tatty whores. Excuse me, sorry. But yeah. I never thought I'd be glad to see the back of Ireland. Least of all to see it, to be happier. Self-love. Yay. Self-love is always encouraged. Except for if it's in public, then keep that shit to yourself. But you had this cindering where people who were of the opinion that Ireland was full were getting more brazen. We're getting more confident, using the freedom of speech bullshit. Now, what stopped that man on the Lewis was other people on the Lewis saying she has a fucking child with her. You're not going to hit her, and if you hit her, you're dead. And again, the kindness of people always, for me, shines through. There was that zealot of hate, but then on the other hand, there was 4, 5, 6 people ready to stand in front of that punch, and that really gives me faith.
There are still good people in this country. It's just they're afraid to show it.
Yeah. So you have this conflation, and you have the people getting more and more angry at everything, and more confident in displaying that anger in terms of violence.
Well, I wonder if part of that is due to the due to what they're seeing in other countries like Hungary and Poland and places like that, with governments who are just not allowing any refugees in.
Yeah, you have xenophobes in Hungary. You have the rise of the right all over the place.
Yep.
Now, what's interesting is people are like, well, what's right wing? What is right wing?
Even Sweden now has swung the other way and has said that they're going to be stopping migration. Of just everybody coming in because of all the troubles they've had.
Stopping migration is a short-sighted solution. The issues is that we have enormous swathes of wealth in very, very concentrated hands. And the wealth that has been created is not reaching beyond those very thin levels at the top.
Yep. If you're not one of the top politicians with doing backhanders and brown envelopes.
Tatty just said it's not in here long enough to make a difference, but there is a thing called a financial transaction tax.
Good luck.
Most countries in the EU have one. Now, what a financial Celtic Tiger. I know Celtic Tiger. Celtic Tiger was a fucking lie.
And the Teflon Taoiseach.
For anyone that doesn't know, a financial transaction tax is any money that comes into the country is stopped, is taxed as it's on its way in, and then it goes back out. So on the way in, you have to pay a tax to funnel money through a country. So if you're sending it to Ireland from the US, it comes in from the US, it's taxed at that point, and then it goes out to the rest of wherever it's going to go. And that's what's been happening. Nobody in Ireland have had the political will to introduce a financial transaction tax, which, I'm going to be honest, if they put it at 5%, no, that's too high. If they put it at 2%, that would solve the issues with healthcare, social welfare, and with, not with housing, but with the schools.
No, you're wrong there, Keelah. That would solve the Taoiseach's pay problem, in that he doesn't get enough money from us.
Yeah, I know what could fucking solve the Taoiseach's pay problem. But I'm not going to say that on here. So a financial people think a financial transaction tax is radical. It's really not.
Wait, hang on. Don't most of us get financial transaction tax every time we use our fucking cards?
Yes.
So, what?
But this is on large scale, large sums of money. So you have the IFSC, which is the Irish financial sector.
This is on the billionaires who can't afford to pay tax. Sorry.
Yeah.
I forgot.
So a financial transaction tax and a wealth tax on anything. Here's and this is not even a radical thought, but any building worth over $1 million, you set a financial transaction tax. Beyond that, any home that's not the main home, and any infrastructure, whether that be cars, portfolios, small financial transaction tax. There you go. That would actually solve the housing crisis there in itself. A wealth tax.
Solve a huge amount.
So the issue is that they are just refusing to do that because it's easier for them who control the society, whether that's big businesses, the government, and whoever else you want to fucking throw in, except let's not be stupid.
No, but see, what you're not thinking of there is, why not just tax petrol, tobacco, and alcohol more?
Oh, lad, come here. Have you seen what the UK government are doing?
Oh, no.
They're bringing in a thing where anyone under who are born after a certain year will never, ever be allowed to buy cigarettes.
Oh, yes, I did see that.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I'm actually kind of in favor of that. But how it's going to be enforced is going to be very fucking difficult.
I mean, as a smoker, I have my issues with it. But it's more in line, as you said, it's more in tune with it's not bribery, it's lobbying. Yeah, pretty much. It's more in line with, first of all, if you are a legal adult, what you put into your body should be on you. You know, I'm not for prohibition. Prohibition doesn't fucking work.
Never has done.
It's JL is in the chat. Hello, JL. Hello, E-Man. So yeah. I'm not for prohibition. Prohibition doesn't work. The second issue that I have with it is that they're doing it in a very cynical way. The idea that people beyond under a certain age or born after a certain year will never get their hands on cigarettes. Have they learned nothing from the weed crisis at all?
Do governments learn from their mistakes?
No. I think it'd be dangerous if they did.
No.
Because it's not going to benefit anyone but them. But yeah, so the actual access to it is very, very difficult to stop, especially with big lobbyists. They will fold.
There was a couple of countries. Now, I was watching John Oliver this week tonight, and he was talking about these tobacco companies.
Yeah.
And countries, really small countries, who tried to ban tobacco outright. And what was it? Philip Morris went in and sued the actual country.
Yeah.
For so much money, and they won.
More than their GDP. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just utterly disgraceful.
Yeah, because they're not going to have their profits being basically reduced to zero.
The best thing that ever happened for the tobacco industry was the fact that they weren't allowed to advertise it for them anymore, because that meant they didn't have to pay any money for advertisements, so more profit.
Mm-hmm. But going back to the original point.
Sorry.
We got a little off topic.
Sorry, but they're just a couple of facts I know about the tobacco industry and how evil and horrible it is. And why I kind of agree with the fact that banning it for certain people. But I mean, then again, how do you enforce it?
Yeah. And should it be done? Should you have control over what the population consume?
And prohibition never works.
To an extent, you should, but when you're talking about substances, the big question is what will actually, is it so harmful that it's not arsenic? It's bad, but it's not arsenic. You're not going to drop fucking dead like that. Otherwise, I'd be dead a long time ago.
And there are people like my aunt who has chain smoked her entire life and never had any inkling of cancer.
Yeah.
And she's, 90 now?
There you go. But yeah, I mean, we're way off topic. But, right, so my point was originally, there has been a tinderbox happening in Ireland over the past 18 months because of the migration and because of the refusal of governments to intervene in what's been happening over the housing issue, homelessness. That includes homelessness. The rental market's gone skyrocketed through the roof. That it's now on average nearly fucking $2,000 in order to get a 1-bedroom apartment in Dublin, which is absolutely outrageous.
If you're fucking lucky, you'll get it for that.
Yeah. And all in all, things have gone to shit. It serves them because their voters will come out and they're hoping to disenfranchise a lot of people. And if you don't have a fixed abode, you can't vote. So it actually serves them to drive up homelessness and to create the tensions so they can come in with their white knight and fucking savior shit and pretend to be the good guys.
Before general election.
Yeah. Pretend to be the good guys. And they know their voters will always come out and support them. And that's the huge part of the issue. That's changing. Whether or not it changes enough, I don't know. Because, well, we'll see with the next election. I'd say Sinn Féin are getting in. Whether or not that changes anything, because I know what Sinn Féin are like. They fucking speak out of both sides of their mouth. But that kind of tinderbox sparked organisation of the right wing. The anti-immigrant, the hardliners, that the borders should be absolutely closed 100%. They started organising themselves into these groups. And then you had the Freedom Party, the Irish Freedom Party, the National Party, also inconvenient. So these are people who outrightly confess to being neo-Nazis. In with these people, and you have the people who don't really understand the difference between anger at the government and anger at migrants. They thought that this is how you show your anger at the government, and hopefully they'll listen. And this is what happens. they are overtaken and led in a direction that is so fucking destructive. 15 businesses, tens of millions in damage. And there are some people some Irish people, because they're Irish patriots, some Irish people will not have a job for Christmas.
Oh.
Well done, you fucktards. Some migrants who were working do not have a job for Christmas. Some businesses who were bigging up Irish economy will not reopen. So this was never about the stabbings of those children. This was about making a stand to the government to show, actually, big hard boot boys, we're in charge. And for about 3 hours they were. And what a 3 hours.
What a 3 hours it was.
All they did was turn a fucking city against them.
Yeah, there's not a single normal person out there who agrees with what they did.
Now, I want to go back to that night. I want to go back to rehear what Gilroy has said. And then I want to show in 2 more things, and then I'll quit for the night, because I'm frustrated, I'm angry, I'm sad. My heart absolutely breaks for the family of those children, for the children who had to witness it, who are now scarred for life. But my heart also goes out to migrants of Dublin who have been terrified to come out of their homes in case this happens again.
Sure, I think one of the news channels said that whatever migrants were being brought in might have to be sleeping on the streets for the winter.
Yes.
What does that have to do with fucking anything at the moment?
Well, one of the first responders was a nurse who was from the Philippines. She was there before the first responders actually got there, before the ambulance crew got there. She was there on the scene. And she spoke about how it took a week after the riots. She held that little girl and did CPR for 7 minutes on that child to keep her alive.
Fuck.
Until the ambulance got there. And she was terrified to leave her home for a week because of these people. So let's go back to our friend Gilroy and refresh ourselves for those who haven't heard what Ben Gilroy said. Let's just refresh ourselves, and then I want to show you 2 quick things and we'll call it a night.
Let's get some facts straight. Thousands of people, both Irish and foreign nationals, came out on the O'Connell Street, Dublin here, to express their mutual outrage, anger and contempt for the state's failure in their duty to protect the children of Ireland. Most of the people that showed up acted within the law. However, a few hundred of whom I believe are anarchists from the radical left seized upon this tragic situation and chose to attack the Gardaí when they were vulnerable, outnumbered and trying to protect the integrity of a crime scene. I stand with the people that came out lawfully to express their anger, and I also wholeheartedly condemn the arsonists, vandals, thugs and looters who took advantage of us at our lowest ebb when we were in shock and heartbroken by this savage attack. I believe the attacker is an Algerian man in his 50s, whom I'm told has been living in Ireland since the year 2000, permitted by the Fianna Fáil, Bertie Ahern government. Now all of this clearly calls into question the present day reckless open borders policy of Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael and the Green government. Furthermore, this reckless open border policy is openly and fully supported by the so-called parties of opposition, being Mary Lou's Sinn Féin, Labour and People Before Profit. There was not a shred of evidence that the disturbing scenes in Dublin of last night were politically motivated, nor was there any evidence of the so-called far-right involvement.
Okay, so there wasn't any far right. There was no need to panic. There was no need to be afraid. So I'm going to show you something which really gets to me. And we'll have a quick conversation. So that man's name is Victor. He was coming home from work. Didn't know that there was riots going on or what was going on. And someone tried to fight him. And then you have a group of about 20, 30, 40 people, I don't know who was behind the camera, Irish people, chasing him down, wanting to kill him.
You forgot patriots.
Oh, sorry, patriots. So they wanted to
kill
him
dead. That is the furthest thing from patriotism you could ever have.
And Ben Gilroy would have you believe that those people were anarchists.
Now, there was one thing that's bothering me about Ben Gilroy's thing. Why did he have to say that he believed that the man was from Algeria? What has that got to do with anything?
That has everything got to do with it.
That's him spinning the news again.
That's him showing his true fucking colours.
Yep.
That I've been listening to Opinions Matter, the podcast, and when they were talking about this, they openly asked if this person who committed this heinous act against those children, if that was, an Irish fella called Seamus Murphy, with red hair, would there have been riots? And not one person who was supporting the riots could say yes. Because it wasn't about the stabbings. It was about the nationality of the perpetrator. Now, I had conversations with people online, as we all did. And someone actually asked me for give me an example, she said, of an Irish person who had used a knife to stab a woman and 3 children. I don't know if you remember Nimrod, but a few years ago, not that long ago, there was a fella called Alan Howe.
I probably wasn't in the country for that.
Probably not. Alan Howe was a beacon of the community, involved in GAA and involved in this church, and he came home one day, decided that he couldn't leave his children orphaned because he was going to take his own life. And he couldn't, his missus could definitely never, ever, ever be able to live without him. So he took an axe to her and stabbed his 3 children to death before taking his own life.
Fuck.
And he was Irish. But of course, when you bring this up to them and you say, well, actually, Irish people have done really bad things too. You ask for an example. There's an example. Yeah, but. No. Either you're outraged by all of it, any ounce of aggression or violence upon innocent people, or you don't get to have a fucking say. You can't pick and choose that it's okay for Alan Howe to murder his family, but it's not okay for this guy to murder or attempt to murder because all of the children are still alive, thankfully. The woman involved is still alive, although in critical condition. The 5-year-old who was stabbed is in critical condition. But they're still fighting. This man went into his home to the people he was supposed to love, who trusted him most, and he stabbed them to death. But when you raise that to them, so the raising of the fact that he was Algerian is again trying to justify the riots, trying to justify people's anger, because we have been saying, and by we he means the right wing. That's hold no bars about it. The right wing in Ireland have been saying for the last 18 months, migrants are not safe. They want to hurt our women and children. That's the line that's been coming out. Undocumented migrants want to murder and kill and hurt our women and children. And he used the fact or the belief that this man is Algerian. We don't actually know yet, because the police have not been making any statements whatsoever, because they don't have the fucking evidence and they have a case to build. Again.
Yeah, and it hasn't even been mentioned on mainline TV.
Because they don't want to prejudice any case that might be brought against him. Exactly. What has been said is this man is in hospital in an induced coma because of the wounds that he suffered. He has had a tumor removed a few years ago. And that's all we know. That's all we know for absolute certainty. So yeah, they've been trying to pump this out the last 18 months that these undocumented migrants want to kill and injure our women and children. And so they're trying to justify their anger and their attacks on migrant centers and migrant homes by saying, look what you did. This man did the most heinous act in targeting children, and he's foreign. Therefore, we are right. That was the important point of him raising the nationality. And it's also interesting, the only people that raise the nationality of an alleged perpetrator is the fucking right wing.
Oh, shocking. I'm so surprised.
Now, the last thing I want to show before we end things, because we've been going for 2 hours, and thank you guys for staying with me, and thanks for coming out, people. I've missed this. I really have. I missed someone in the chat. Skooma Cat, I see you out there. Hello. The last thing I want to raise is I'm going to give the kind of last real word on this to a migrant. Now, I want you to take note of the person who has shared this and the fact that she sees this as a threat to Irish life, and she wants this man deported. But listen to his message, because his message typifies what I think genuine migrants who have left their homeland, left everything, looking for a decent life. I think this man is on the fucking ball. So I'm going to let him talk, and then we'll do an outro and say goodbye to people. So
never lower yourself for any of these Irish people in this country. Never lower yourself. When you go back into work, when you go back into school, do better. Work harder. Beat them. Don't let them fucking beat you. When you go into a race, a relay race, a sprint, win times 10. Run laps around them. Don't stop. Don't let this situation discourage you from winning in this country. Stand up and win more. Go out. Show yourself. Don't hide. Don't stay undercover. Don't stay at home. Go out and win. Hustle, grind, side hustle. Do everything you can to win. Don't let this discourage you. These people that are protesting and doing these things, they are not worth it. They are not worth stopping your life for, because they don't want anything better. They're waiting on the government to give them a house and free money and free cars. Don't do it to yourself.
That was nice said.
Yeah. To have such eloquence in the face of hatred is to be admired.
Mm-hmm.
And for any stupid fucking bimbo bitch to say that it's a threat to all Irish people, what he just said was essentially, if you missed the message, was do not lower yourself to this hatred. Pick yourself up, win. Do whatever you have to win. Work hard, hustle, side hustle, just be you. Be better than the people that hate you. And that is, I think, the most powerful message that I could end things on.
Oh, definitely. That was, I mean, very nice set of words. And the message behind it is just amazing. And from an immigrant as well, showing the Irish flag. You know, don't let these people win. It's unfortunately they do too often.
Yeah. They can't be allowed to win this one because the result will be in murders next. And that is just unthinkable. So I hope over the last 2 hours I've given you a little bit more context as to what's been going on in Ireland, what has led to this. I don't think this is the end. I really don't think this is the end. They have been emboldened because they think they've won. So if there's another update, I will hopefully be able to give it. Thankfully at a safe distance. Sorry, Nimrod.
Well, I am kind of at a safe distance from it, really.
But thank you for coming and watching. I know I've been gone for a very long time, so even to have people here really means a lot. So
it is fantastic to have you back. Thank you very much for having me on one of your very few live streams you've done lately.
I don't think I could have done it having anyone else on, because it needed to be us. It really did.
Needed to be Irish, yeah, definitely Dubliners.
Not to be racist or anything, but like, yeah, no, it did need to be. It needed. It's our city. It's our city that they burnt to the ground. Or that they tried to burn to the ground, and out of the ashes will come something stronger. I really, really hope. And not this fucking hate speech bullshit bill that they're trying to bring in either. But we shall see. We shall see.
Nonsense.
Goodbye, everybody, and thank you for watching and putting up with my nonsense.
Goodbye, everybody.